Welcome everybody to Indivisible TX Lege Live. We are so excited to be with you on January 10th, 2021. It is a Sunday, so happy Sunday afternoon. And lo and behold, in a lot of parts of Texas, it is snowing. So a little weather celebration for the upcoming state legislature. That's what I'm going to claim the reason is for. We are really excited about the conversation we have lined up for you today. We're going to talk to some additional huddle leaders that we have in our organization. Back in December, towards the end of December, we had a big conversation with a lot of our huddle leaders. Well, the good news is we have some more. And so I'm really excited to be joined by our democracy huddle leaders, Kathy Williams and Kirk Pate, as well as our healthcare huddle leader, Meg Anam. How are y'all doing this Sunday afternoon in the snow?
Well, is it snowing where you are, Meg?
It is actually. It's just like lightly snowing. It's not sticking to the ground, but it's such a beautiful sight to see. I really love it.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things as we are all preparing for the upcoming state legislative session. As we've kind of shared in past videos, when the election ends in November, for a lot of people, they really want to start powering down. It's the end of the year, Thanksgiving is on the horizon, and then the holiday season and New Year's. And when you're a part of state legislative advocacy, you go the opposite direction. You start ramping up. Because our state legislature only meets every 2 years for 140 days. And January 12th, 2021 is the first day of this year's legislative session. And so a lot of work has been done in terms of identifying what's being pre-filed with bills, because they could start filing those the Monday after the election, as well as recruiting and bringing people on board who want to join us in this work and connecting with various partners. So I'm going to introduce and give our huddle leaders a little bit more time to introduce themselves as well, so that they can share a little bit about why they're doing this work and why they're focusing on the issue that they're on. So let's start off with Kathy Williams. Kathy, part of the Democracy Huddle leadership, what is it about this issue that you felt compelled to kind of join this effort and really focus around this work?
Well, I was a journalist for 30 years, reporter to managing editor of a newsroom, and covered all the elections between 1984 to 2012. So I've witnessed the whole history of voting rights coming up to an apex in the mid 80s to the early 90s, and then starting to descend again, to be attacked, chipped away at, to what we have right now. And I know that voting rights, how elections are conducted, are the seminal right and responsibility, the keystone of our democracy. It's a thing that's most under attack right now because it relates to every other cause that we try to address as a democracy. And so I worked this election on the voter assistance hotline, and heard the stories of individual people, of, a 77-year-old woman who got sick the day before the election, had voted in person all of her life and she was down in Hidalgo County and could not get to a poll. And she was in tears. And we were able finally to get someone to pick her up, take her to it, and she did get to vote. But it shouldn't be so hard to be a good, responsible citizen of the United States. So that's why I'm here, is to work on it.
Well, amazing background, amazing experience. So we're so excited to be able to work on an Indivisible TX Lege with you, and definitely a lot of great reasons why this work is so important. Kirk, I want to hand it off to you as our other democracy huddle leader, and share why this issue was the issue you wanted to focus your time on.
Thank you, Alexander. Well, in one sense, I can hardly improve on what Kathy said. We have a democracy if we can keep it. I think right now we're living at a time when we start to entertain thoughts about what it may be like to lose it. And it's kind of frightening. There are other countries, say Russia, maybe North Korea and others, where people vote, but who do those governments represent? And so if we don't keep it ourselves, then others are going to keep it for us in ways that we're not going to like. And so, I think Kathy said it well. It's so essential to the way we're governed, by whom we're actually governed. And so as long as we can maintain, reinforce, enhance the popular vote, then we can stave off and minimize, the possibility that we wind up simply as a, plutocracy or an oligarchy, where, voting simply becomes all show. So, that's what motivates me to participate in this particular huddle.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirk. I want to move on next to our healthcare huddle leader. Meg, tell us a little bit about yourself and why this issue is the issue you want to spend your time on.
All right, so I think back in, June, July, I started an organization called Code Crimson with two of my friends, and we work on the issue of like removing the tampon tax in Texas, which is just a luxury tax put on period products. And, we have a lot of women and menstruators in Texas who kind of need access to these products. And we thought, okay, let's start an organization and let's get rolling. And we joined this coalition and we started kind of working with other people around Texas on this issue. And then I think that's where I started kind of looking at healthcare more broadly as a whole. I mean, I think I went to a representative meeting with Donna Howard in, July, and we were talking about, filing a bill, HB 321, what it's known as now, in November. And we were going to work towards, ratifying this bill during the 87th Leg session. And I think that's kind of what got me started on working at this Leg session and kind of working with groups like Indivisible that work on, just these different bills and different important issues that and just representing Texans as a whole, when looking at the Leg session. And being a high schooler, I'm still trying to kind of find my passions at this point. And I thought, since healthcare is such a big issue in this era of coronavirus, and not a lot of people are getting the healthcare access they need in such an important time. There are so many people in Texas without insurance and all of these important things they need to combat coronavirus, and also other healthcare issues that aren't really being represented right now. You have people who get in accidents, who have cancer, or who have other serious medical issues, but they aren't being represented well because all of these hospitals are getting filled with coronavirus patients, and all of this kind of bubbles down to can I afford healthcare? Can I have access to this? And I slowly started getting more interested in the specific healthcare issue as it kind of moved to November, December. After the election, I started looking at, things with the Leg, and I thought, let me combine, my passion for menstrual equity with, this kind of important topic with healthcare. And I really thought, what, let me join as a healthcare huddle lead, because this is such an important issue in this era. And I thought, what, let's work together and make this just, a really good Leg session for healthcare.
Awesome, Meg. I love the actions that you're taking and the work you're already doing. It is just amazing. You are a huge inspiration. And I think we heard from each of you just how personal this issue is and why it matters. And that's one thing that's really important for everyone to understand is, the work you do in advocacy and the work you do with the upcoming Leg session. Go ahead and spend the time on the things that matter to you. And that is what's going to help keep you motivated, keep you plugging away. and paying attention, because the ledge session by design is this chaotic mess that sometimes they kind of don't want you to pay attention. And so you really need to latch on by focusing on something that's going to matter and something that you care about. So these are some of our amazing huddle leaders that, like we said, there are 9 issue huddles that we are focused on as an organization this particular ledge session. We are always happy to add more. We just want to make sure that there are people who are willing to organize around it. So if you and a group of people are interested in organizing around something we're not covering, connect with us. Let us know. We'd love to see how we can accommodate and bring that work into the fold. But let me share real quickly with everybody our website so that you can see if you're interested in joining a huddle, the democracy huddle or healthcare huddle that we have represented here, or any of our huddles. You can go to our website. So indivisible-TX-Lege.org is linked in our post, and we have a join us link that you can click on. And within this page, there's all the different ways you can follow us on social media, join our mailing list. We highly encourage you, because our huddle leaders are going to be putting out calls to action, what we call CTAs. And that is going to be distributed through our social media as well as our email list. And so you want to be able to stay connected with us so you're informed on any actions that need to be taken, because as the bills start moving through the legislative session, they can bounce around pretty quickly. And we want to make sure we are there to either stop or support a bill, depending on what part of the process it is in. So what you can do is come to our website. There's some foundational information that is required, but you are not required to fill out this entire form. So whatever is relevant to you that you want to share so that you can get plugged in, fill it out. You don't have to fill out every single box or item here, just the required information and the information that's going to be relevant to letting us know what you want to jump in on in regards to the work that we have. Here's the list of huddles that we have from criminal justice, democracy, disability justice, education, environment, healthcare, immigration, LGBTQIA plus issues, and reproductive rights, as well as just all group support in different ways that you can take on some tasks. What's going to happen is after you fill out this form, one of our organizers is going to reach out to you. The amazing Sharon Kramer is going to reach out to you to have a conversation and to start the onboarding process so that we can get you connected. So we highly encourage you, if you're interested in joining us in this work, fill out the join us form, follow us on social media, join our email list, and that way we can be connected during this ledge session. All right, so we're going to move our conversation with our huddle leaders to talk about some of the legislative priorities that y'all are looking at. And so as a huddle, what are some of those legislative priorities, as well as some of the allies that you'll be working with or paying attention to in this work? And so Meg, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off with the healthcare huddle perspective, what is the healthcare huddle looking at?
So currently, the healthcare huddle is like looking at 3 main issues. Obviously, as more people join our huddle and, we kind of get more people involved, we're kind of expand these issues to more interests that our huddle members feel that really need to be represented in the healthcare space. But for now, we're kind of working on like 3 big things. The first thing is we're trying to expand Medicaid in Texas and making sure that counties that for the people who don't really have access to Medicaid, we're making sure that they all get it. By finding bills that really do support Medicaid. And since it's just so important in Texas, because with all of these healthcare issues that are going on, it's really important that everyone does have access to healthcare in this time, especially when you don't have insurance, when you're a low income family, you're living in marginalized communities. So that's one big thing that we wanted to work on as a group. And the second thing is the Affordable Care Act. That kind of goes hand in hand with Medicaid expansion, but as it was at risk of being repealed, repealed, and currently there are many people who want to like diminish this act. You know, we just want to make sure that the Affordable Care Act is just kind of staying strong in Texas, and that people who are under this coverage, you know, keep this coverage. And for, again, low-income families, the people in marginalized communities, impoverished communities, they have access to all this stuff. So that's another big legislative priority we're looking at. And the third is, you know, as I was saying, I'm currently like working on like menstrual equity and making sure that people who are facing period poverty, who don't have access to, you know, proper menstrual products, you know, we're making sure that, you know, everyone in the space is represented, all menstruators, so that they are able to afford, you know, period products, and making sure that, you know what, like, you know, they're able to afford it. And, you know, since it's also a serious healthcare issue, which a lot of people overlook, you know, we're making sure that, you know, people are represented in the space, and that this is just a big priority for this next upcoming leg session. And again, these are the three main things we're focusing on. And being a sort of new huddle that emerged in TX Lege, you know, we're trying to expand, and we're looking at new ideas. And, you know, as we get more people in, if you have an issue that you really want to get represented in the healthcare space, we'd be glad to take that up, and we'd be glad to kind of look over it, because, you know, healthcare is so important. And in an age where there's so many different issues involved in healthcare, you know, there's like, you know, there's so much room for like being represented, and we are definitely open to looking at these different issues. So for that, those are big legislative priorities. And for allies we're working with, you know, currently, as I mentioned before, I'm a part of the Texas Menstrual Equity Coalition. That's one coalition we are looking at, you know, partnering with and making sure we're like working in terms of menstrual equity, that specific priority. You know, for like more of the healthcare side, we're looking at different healthcare coalitions, such as like the Texas Public Health Coalition, or like the Texas Women's Healthcare Coalition. You know, these just different coalitions that can help us in our specific goals, because, you know, there are a lot of general coalitions out there, and we need people that can represent us and who can just get that community support for this specific issue. But, you know, beyond this, you know, our huddle is also looking towards, you know, straight up getting support from doctors and different hospitals, and just like showing that, like, you know, there are doctors around Texas who understand that this is so important, that like everyone like deserves healthcare for all, just like healthcare equality in Texas. And, you know, getting that direct community support is something our huddle is working towards, because, you know, hopefully legislators will understand that, like, you know, with so many doctors and coalitions relating to healthcare involved in this issue, that it's important, you know, and just building up that community support will be really vital for our huddles to succeed during the session.
Well, Meg, that is super exciting, that focus. And we have definitely been hearing, when it comes to Medicaid expansion, that there is real momentum that is happening. It's becoming much more mainstream when we hear different legislators talking. So the organizing efforts around that, making sure we're putting the pressure on legislators to get to the point to where that's going to be adopted in Texas, would be a huge, huge victory. So excited about the entire list of priorities. And like you mentioned, you know, as huddle members join the healthcare huddle, the opportunity to expand what the focus is going to be there. And so if this is an area that you're interested in, definitely sign up, and we'll get you connected to the amazing Meg so that you can be a part of this effort. All right, well, we're going to shift to our democracy huddle to Kathy and Kirk. Talk to us about some of the legislative priorities you guys are looking ahead to focus on, as well as the allies you're going to be working with and be, you know, paying attention to.
You want to go, Kirk?
Okay. Yeah, if I may share my screen, Alexander, and what I'm posting here is a document that we are going to post on the huddle drop down on the Indivisible TX Lege landing page that Alex showed you. Kathy has taken the lead in identifying the bills that have been filed in the legislature that pertain to our democracy huddle. Let me mention too that democracy, as we're focusing on it, involves voting rights, elections, and redistricting. The Texas legislature, when it receives a bill that may pertain to those three topics, classifies or categorizes filed bills into 15 different categories pertaining to elections. That's their category, and then they have subtitles. So what we've done through the Texas Legislature Online and through LegiScan is to already identify all of the filed bills to date across those 15 categories in Texas Legislature Online. These right here are the bills that are introduced by Republicans. And we have not yet gone in and working with our Huddle members, start to tag each one with support or oppose. But this is just a listing of them. All told, all the bills that pertain to elections, there are over 90 bills. This is just a subset of the bills. So we're tracking them already. And through information that we'll be sharing through the Huddle, you can go in and look at the short titles for each of the bills, and you can see the range of subtopics that are addressed with these individual bills. So part of our task ahead with our Huddle members is to begin to tag these as well as the remaining bills introduced in the elections category in terms of support or opposition. In terms of allied organization, this is just a beginner's list of those. And at this point, we're sort of cataloging, you might say, these organizations. Others will be added. I've even gone to I have gone to each of these sites and off of their pages identified other organizations that also would be interested in elections, and therefore the list can be expanded, by extension, going through these individual sites. So one of our efforts down the road will be to identify points of contact in those organizations with whom we can work. So Kathy may have some other comments just to make about priorities and organizations. So Kathy and I sort of tag team this. So Kathy, you have something you want to add about that?
A couple of things. One is that I can't emphasize enough how really at the beginning of this we are. And Kirk and I just met about 2 weeks ago, I guess, online, of course, when we were both appointed. And we've worked some on divvying up duties and responsibilities, but also in forging our goal statements and mission statements. And I think I might. Where is it? Anyway, the main focus that we have is that we're looking for universal rights to vote and universal access to polls, both the legal rights to do it and the practical ability to exercise those rights. We also will be looking at redistricting when it happens, but that might not even be this legislative session. It could occur, according to two of our state senators who spoke last week, it could either occur in a special session because the Census Bureau is late, or the Constitution of Texas says that it has to be redistricting has to be conducted in the next regular legislative session, which would be 2023, because they've missed the deadline. So we don't even know if redistricting is going to come up in this session or how it's going to come up, but we're going to be ready. We're going to be looking at all of that we can. As I wanted to say, one reason why I really am attracted to Indivisible and Indivisible TX Lege in specific is that it's kind of like, if any of you have ever worked in theater, there's a job for everyone. If you can sell tickets, if you want to work on lights, if you know something about painting, if you are good at editing a script, if you can do makeup or hair. I mean, there's something for everyone. And that's what we really need in each of our huddles is people with all kinds of good skills, with software skills and maybe even a little coding skills and research skills and speaking skills and people skills and all of those things. And we really invite everyone to be a part of it. The second thing that I think we're a little light on in our huddle is racial diversity. And I would really like to encourage, especially Asian, African American, and Hispanic, Latinx people out there to join us, because there are so many views and so many important basic issues that we can't all see them, so we can't see them all. So please join us for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirk and Kathy. It's exciting the work that you guys have already gotten rolling along. And as you know, more people join this effort, our ability to be able to make an impact during the legislative session is going to be really exciting to see. And so I'm going to go a little deeper into what Kirk was sharing there with the huddle information, and kind of navigate to our website again so you can see the Huddle Up page that we are accumulating all this information on. So once again, indivisible-txlege.org is our website, but right here in the middle, we have a link called Huddle Up. And the drop down for that link is for all of our individual huddles, but the Huddle Up page itself has a little blurb or description around what the huddle is going to be doing, so that you can, share and be informed around some of that information. But the more specific information is going to be within the huddle pages themselves. And that's where Kirk is talking about. They're really working on trying to finalize the items for the 2021 legislative session. And so we'll be updating the websites for each of these huddles as that work is being completed. And then, there may be some updates that happen throughout the ledge session. And so getting all of this content and information organized, cataloged was a great word that Kirk used with some of this effort, so that we can make sure it's available to everybody, and there's a great resource that they have to stay informed and to know exactly what we're going to be focusing on. That's going to be the effort that's been happening, and the effort is going to continue happening so that we are prepared, because as we know with the ledge session, there's a real big kickoff on Tuesday with the 12th, and there's going to be a lot of fanfare around the start of the ledge session. But then after that, once the cameras go away for that particular day, it's kind of a crawl while things are getting organized within the legislative session. They are going to vote on what the rules are going to be, which we're going to jump into that conversation here in a second. And then they're going to assign the committee members, and all of that stuff starts happening. But then around the middle to end of February, early March, things really start ramping up, and things really start moving very, very fast because there's only a few months left in the ledge session. And so we're really excited for everyone to be a part of this work and to be connected with everybody. So pay attention to our Huddle Up page so that you are informed and you can share with your communities, with your organizations, and we'll continue to keep those things up to date. So let's talk about what the 2021 legislative session is going to look like. Even if it's your first time, like Meg, really diving into the ledge session like she is this year, or if you've been in it for a while, this year is going to be very unique, unlike any other ledge session we've participated in or seen before. We did hear from the governor. They released the reopening of the Capitol on January 4th. Now, it did close on January 6th because we know the unfortunate events that happened at the U.S. Capitol was also happening at various state houses. And so the Texas Capitol was closed on January 6th. But its intentions is for it to be open, and there are some safety procedures that are being put in place. A lot of people are concerned that they may be a little too laxed still around some of those safety measures. And then the rules for the different committees, for the different chambers of the legislative body, as well as the individual offices for each legislator, are going to be determined. And we should be hearing more information about that next week. So with all of this, because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19, all of these things are having to be considered and changed. What does organizing look like from y'all's perspective? And what are some of the things y'all are planning to try to still engage with the legislature during this ledge session, as well as organizing with your huddle members? And so Meg, I'll go ahead and start off with you to see what are some of the things that you're seeing and some of the things that maybe through the coalition work you've been doing that may be those opportunities.
So I think obviously in the era of coronavirus and quarantine, I think the biggest way of kind of organizing and really getting together is, online and through Zoom, and, being a part of Generation Z, where, a big, factor of our existence basically is technology, social media, all this stuff. That's where we're really trying to get together and, pull through is, on Instagram, Facebook, as we are now, like on Slack, getting together through Zoom. All of these places are the big places we're going to be organizing. And I think, starting off, I'm in coalitions where we also organize on Slack, and, Slack is such a good communication system for us. And, getting together through there and really organizing would be really important for us because, during this upcoming legislative session, we can't meet up at a place it's going to be a lot harder to, go straight to the Capitol and get people to organize there because, with what happened on January 6th and just quarantining in general, people are scared to go out there just for fear of just coronavirus and also fear of something else happening, that might repeat what happened on January 6th. So I think getting online and, getting together with other huddle members would be a big thing. So if everyone on live, if you guys are comfortable with, going on Zoom and just kind of meeting with other people around Texas who are equally as involved in issues of healthcare or democracy, this is the perfect time to get involved in the ledge, especially if you're uncomfortable with traveling or anything. We are really excited to just meet new people through Zoom, through this online environment. And it'll be really important when, getting that community support for the ledge session and, when the bills are getting ratified and just sitting in committee, this is the time where we get that support. And, the biggest thing with actually, getting the word to these legislators, it will also happen online. There are so many representatives and senators who are willing to sit with community members on Zoom to talk about these issues. So if we work together and we come on Zoom and we go on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we get the support from social media where the word can spread so fast. If you can get from people to people, you have your rapid response 5, just getting that out there to everyone, have that 5 people who you can contact and who you can ask to spread the word, spread the calls to actions, getting all the support through online and getting the word to these representatives, senators, legislators, all of them who can see the stuff from social media, who can meet with you on Zoom to discuss these issues. They're really going to be affected by the overwhelming number of people who are supporting through an online system. So that's definitely how this ledge session is going to work. And, to the people watching, I recommend this is the prime time of joining the fight and, joining to represent the issues that you want to be represented during this session. Because, unlike other sessions, as Alex was saying, this is a pretty unique session. And, getting that support right now is what we absolutely need in this unprecedented time. And, the fact that it is so unique is that this situation can play out in so many different unique ways. And with your help, it would go beyond, we can really get something done during this session.
Awesome. Absolutely, Meg. Really, really excited. And to your point, we've seen some legislators use Twitter to crowdsource information, something we would never see from certain legislatures. Definitely haven't been seeing them interact on Twitter in that way. So there's that opportunity. There's that real opportunity for us to organize in a new and different way this year and really capitalize on the tools that are available. Kathy and Kirk, what is y'all's perspective when it comes to the democracy huddle and how people are going to be organizing and preparing for this legislation?
Well, one of the ways that I think this is kind of phase 1A or 2 of what we're doing, but as Kirk said, he's been doing a good job of identifying groups that we can work with, and also sort of charting our course here. One of the things that I've been most involved with is just trying to gather as much information as I can about the legislature, and identifying and introducing myself to legislators. I lived in North Texas for many years, and I've only lived in this area for a few years. So, so I do have people that I can kind of, I don't know, bootstrap up to meet. And I'm going to spend some time developing those relationships now so that I can get their wisdom and their perspectives and really get to learn it. I take advantage of every opportunity from every source, whether it's state or local or citywide, to attend Zoom sessions that are on legislative priorities by affinity groups, by various legislators, so that I can get a better sense of what's going to be their take on various pieces of legislation having to do with elections and voting and redistricting, so that we know if that's a friend going in, if that's someone we need to convince to our side, and also trying to figure out how to get to know their staffs better. And that's all things we can do while we're waiting for the legislature to compose itself. Since they don't really have their committee assignments yet, and the legislators don't even know specifically what they're working on. So what we have to look at is the bills that are filed. And I'm sure you know, Alex, what the deadline is for filing bills, but our goals and areas of interest are going to be kind of defined for us once that deadline hits. So whatever kind of input we want to have on legislation we'd like to see has to come before that deadline, so that the legislators have time to write that, which is a pretty lengthy and detailed process.
So next you make there, Kathy, just to answer your question real quick, March 12th, 2021 will be the deadline for bills to be filed this legislative session.
Yeah, we basically want to turn your and our knowledge, experiences, and skills into practice here. And right now we're thinking, as Kathy kind of summarized them, what we categorize as our operational plans. And this basically, the organizing is going to take place around objectives that involve by whom and how activities are going to be accomplished. So this is very much a huddle activity. So we will further establish huddle leadership and membership roles. We'll set up all this infrastructure that's needed, links to this and that, Google Sheets, Google Docs, communications channels, et cetera, et cetera. And we're organizing basically on a research function, which pertains to what Kathy outlined, and that's bill prioritizing, bill status tracking, and legislator monitoring. Producing a good and bad list, white hats, black hats, that sort of thing. And then, as you know, as bills make their way through the legislative process at key points in time, what's going on with respect to any one bill is going to trigger the generation and then the dissemination of a call for action. That's on what's called the comms or communication side of what we're doing. So right now, Kathy is primarily focused on the research function side, the tracking, the data side, you might say. And at some point when a call for action is necessary, then I'll work on working with the overall comms leadership in Indivisible TX Lege and the dissemination of those calls for action. So that's what we're calling operational plans. But what's really important also are what we're calling strategic plans. And this involves by whom and how activities are going to be accomplished in the long term pertaining to the electoral process and supporting or opposing incumbents and candidates based on their voting and public records. So these records are going to be compiled during the legislative session, in particular by elected officials who vote. But then we're going to enter another election cycle at some point. And so we want to be prepared, again, based on a research function and a communications function to then engage down the road in the longer term, for 2023. So that's our basic approach to this. As we speak with and confirm interest by Huddle members in either the research or the comms function, we'll begin to further delineate responsibilities and roles within those two categories. And that's how we're basically operating at this point. But as usual, everything's a work in progress. So we'd welcome you to join the Huddle and become engaged in one of these particular realms of activity here. Thank you.
I have something I wanted to add, and this is just in general. One of the things I'm doing is I'm working to get permission to use anonymous information from the voter assistance hotline, information that's been stripped completely of any identifying information, to find stories of actual Texans who had various problems with the election this year. One thing I found out as a journalist is nothing moves people like a real story about someone. And I would recommend that every huddle identify some of your partner groups who actually provide services in the area where you're working, to get those human stories so that you can go to a legislator or to a legislative aide, more likely, and say, I know these 5 teenagers who are living on the streets, and because they can't get access, they can't afford sanitary products, they're ostracized even from the homeless community, and they, it's a dehumanizing situation for them to be in. You can tug at their heartstrings, and I don't mean that in a cynical way, but legislation has real consequences for real people. And the more we can connect that for legislators, the better chance we have of connecting to them as humans, whether they agree with us or not. And also it gives them a better story to tell their constituents. And that's something that I always try to remember, is that I'm not just trying to convince this person to vote. I'm trying to convince this person that he or she can take a brave action and have a way of supporting themselves and staying elected if that's possible.
Well, that is, thank you so much for sharing how you guys are already thinking about how to organize, and just the different opportunities we have in the unique situation we're in. One thing that is constant that, is part of our foundation, just because of the state we're in, because we are in Texas and we know Texas is huge, is that a lot of this organizing does happen remotely, because it is rare, even when the pandemic wasn't happening, that we would be able to all meet in person to be able to kind of work through a lot of this stuff. And so we're just going to really be taking that up to the highest level we can, because lo and behold, we'll be communicating, advocating remotely as well in various ways and in different opportunities. So huge thanks to all of the thought that you guys have put into this already and how we're going to be organizing and what people can expect. And then we'll continue to see how the legislative session is going to establish their rules. You know, one thing we've been advocating for as an organization, as well as partners throughout the state of Texas, is that virtual testimony opportunity, so that when committees are hearing from the public around particular bills before they vote on it or before it moves forward in the process, that Texans will have an opportunity to have their voice heard and their stories shared. And I think, Kathy, you talking about stories and the importance around those specific stories is so key to our work. And it's really understanding that this communication that we get established with legislators, it can be tempting to make it adversarial from the start, and that's the way it needs to be. But it really is around communicating and around people understanding the impact and helping highlight why this particular direction in a bill will be positive or negative for Texans across our state. So we are just a few days away. We are down to counting probably hours more than we are counting days at this point, because Tuesday is the big day where the legislative session, the 87th legislative session for Texas, will kick off. And there are going to be a lot of key dates through this process that we'll be sharing with y'all, as well as a lot of key actions. And so we want to thank our huddle leaders, Kathy, Kirk, Meg, for joining us today to talk in a little bit more detail around the work that they are anticipating, they're already doing, that they're looking forward to. And we want everybody who is out there to be a part of it. And so continue to share this information, as well as anything we post on our Facebook, Twitter, or even our website. Share with your community so that they can be informed as well, because we want everybody to be connected and involved for this upcoming legislative session. As we head out of our live session today, Kathy, Kirk, Meg, is there anything, any last thoughts or just things you'd like to share to the people out there?
Thank you for organizing this, and yay, snow.
I did try to put my contact information real quick in the chat so you can, I think, decipher it. Well, we appreciate the opportunity to extend the reach here out to the community at large. We do need lots of talent. We need lots of skills. Everything is fluid right now. And there's a big job ahead in exercising our influence on what is passed and what is not. And as Kathy put it, you know, good bills and bad bills, if passed and signed by the governor, are going to have real consequences for us all. And across Meg's issues, across all these other huddle issues, they will have consequences that we will all live by. And so it's either we nudge the process ourselves, or we don't, and we live by what someone else wants for us that we may not like. So get engaged. Yeah, join up.
You know, as Kirk was,
Thanks, Alexander.
like, all of this affects all of us. You know, the decisions made during this one session will affect us for the next 2 years and beyond. So I think to everyone watching, you know, this is the time to get involved. You know, this is the time to be ready, because, you know, like, as we get more involved in this like legislative process, you know, you truly understand how it affects you as a person and how it affects the people you love and your friends and family. So if you really just want your opinion to get out there, and if you want your voice to matter, this is the time to just get active, you know, start spreading the word to everyone you know, just getting in as involved as you can. Even something as simple as like sending out a tweet here and there about like a certain thing that's happening during the session, or getting so much involved so as to join Indivisible and start working with one of our huddles, like the Democracy Huddle, Healthcare Huddle, and all the other huddles we have. You know, how much ever effort you put into like supporting certain voices in this session will be of utmost importance, once the session is over and beyond. So, just make sure to get involved and stay active. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for y'all's time today and all of the amazing work y'all are doing. We're going to be highlighting our issue huddle leaders throughout the Ledge session on our Indivisible TX Lege Live. So be on the lookout for that. And also be on the lookout and join us tomorrow because we have a big event. We are helping alongside a lot of Texas organizations that have signed on to the letter for the resignation of Ted Cruz, Attorney General Ken Paxton, and the 16 members of Congress that are from Texas that voted to object to the 2020 election results. And so, we've kind of have shared the unfortunate things that our Attorney General has done as a state-focused organization. And he just happened to link himself up with some of the members of Congress in our U.S. Senate with Senator Ted Cruz around the unfortunate and despicable events that happened on January 6th. So check out our page, join us in that event tomorrow, and be on the lookout on our Facebook page and Twitter, and we will continue to give you updates. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Sunday. Go outside, enjoy some snow if you have some in Texas, and hopefully get in a fun snowball fight or build a snowman. I'm gonna stop before I start singing from Frozen or anything. Great seeing y'all. Hope everyone has a great one.